Alright. It's about that time to get started. Hello, welcome. Welcome, Jay, back again.
Hello.
Yes.
I just waved like you could see me, but
I mean, we see you in our hearts. Um, yeah, welcome to part 4 of whatever stream thing we're doing. Today we'll be covering the TV shows of the DC Universe media thing. If you're new, then you know. A month ago, I made a video about introducing someone to DC, and today I'm going to be talking about those shows from my personal experience. So, yeah, TV shows. Join with Jay, who famously does not watch TV shows.
nope, anti-TV. I've never seen a TV show and never will.
Yeah, very anti-TV. Yeah, as opposed to me, who is like very much a TV show watcher.
Now,
I
to be fair, I have watched TV shows, and I'm currently watching a TV show. Not
oh,
currently while we're recording, but currently, like, I'm working through. I have the last episode of Ironheart to go, and I will be caught up on that.
uh-huh. One sec. Okay. Um, yeah, no. So we're going over this show, the TV shows. Jay, you're mostly here to just listen to me, keep me company, and all that.
Yep.
Um, so yeah. Why don't we get started with these shows here? And we're starting with the '60s Batman TV show with Adam West. I'd say that this is probably my Batman
No,
growing up.
I've seen the movie of this one,
You've
but
seen the movie, yeah, yeah. Uh,
yeah.
yeah. I grew up with this show. Uh, this was back during the early days of YouTube where copyright was less of a issue, so people would just upload episodes at like 10 minutes parts. Divided into multiple parts. And me as a kid living in like a different country without cable and such, this was my way of watching shows. So, yeah, this was my Batman growing up, like along with the films, the Nolan films, and maybe a cartoon here and there. But yeah, this is kind of my introduction to just live action TV interpretations of superheroes. And you know what? I thought this did a really good job at that. It being the '60s, they were doing the camp pretty well. Um, yeah, you saw the film, so like you
Yeah,
you, you could.
yeah.
What do you
Yeah, I
think?
mean, this definitely harkened back to that era of not only superhero TV, but TV in general, a sort of lighter tone, more fun, less concerned about like bigger franchise or that kind of stuff. Yeah, I really like the movie, so eventually I will probably watch this show. I
Yeah.
Watching movies tends to take precedent for me over watching TV, so
Mm-hmm.
that's why I don't watch as much TV, but I do enjoy a lot of shows, so
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to getting around to this eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got the DVD when they came up with like their remaster of the show, and so watched it over the years. It's a show that me and my mom watched a lot. She watched it when she was a kid, back when it was airing, and so I got to watch it. It's fun, family friendly time with like little hints of sauce in the background because the '60s were a time. Um, I really love that this is so unashamed about what it is. It's Batman,
No.
and they're wearing these silly costumes, quote unquote silly costumes. They're like owning up to the gadgets and the comic book-ness of it, and this kind of warped my perception of like what you can do with live action TV. It's like, oh, you can clearly do everything exactly the way it is in the comics. Like, what? You don't need to make it serious or overly edgy or such. Little do I know that TV executives had very different ideas. Um,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. It was something that I would learn later on as I watched more TV shows and realizing, I'm noticing a pattern here. um, yeah, I would highly recommend this one to just anyone, you know, anyone and everyone. You know, it's family friendly, so you can enjoy it. Pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Next up, we have the 70s Wonder Woman TV show with Linda Carter. I think this is Wonder Woman's first live action depiction. I could be wrong, but
Okay.
the first mainstream popular one up until Gal Gadot. But yeah, this one, it's a show that it's a show that starts out as like a 1940s World War II period thing where Wonder Woman shows up, fights the Access powers, whatever scheme that they're doing, and then at the end of the episode, she's like, haha, lesson learned, good is good, bad is bad. And they did that for the first season. And then they decide for like the second season, you know what? It costs too much to make like a 1940s time period. We're just gonna modernize it, so now we take place in modern 70s time. And Wonder Woman, she's gonna be like a spy, a secret agent, which is pretty wild, but kind of fun. It's not as exciting as the period piece, but it is still entertaining nonetheless. Here we have like the classic meme thing of Wonder Woman spinning to like get her costume and such. It's lots of fun. Wonder Woman herself is kind of filmed in a similar vein as like the Lou Ferrigno Hulk TV show, where it's just like she bends like rubber, but it's actually metal. Ooh, she jumps above the camera, and that's implying that she jumps really high. Just very clever editing, but there is some like pretty cool stunt work every now and then where she jumps off like a cliff but lands.
Okay.
So, yeah, weird editing stuff, but yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
fun stuff. Definitely great time for Wonder Woman women's television. I guess don't know how else to describe it. You've not seen this or really know much, do you?
No, I have not.
Right.
No. I will watch it eventually, but just like the Batman show, this is something that is on my radar.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't start watching this until the DC Universe streaming service. Do you remember that? That was a service that
Yes, yes.
was created in 2018 and lasted up until maybe 2020. So,
Yeah, it didn't last long.
really short-lived, but I thought it was amazing because it had everything DC, even the most obscure thing. And then, you know, it got merged with HBO Max, and they lost so much stuff. You can't find it.
Yeah.
You can maybe find some of it on Tubi
Yeah.
now, but still, it was such a shame. It was like perfect for me. It was my streaming service. It's like, oh man, I could watch all these old TV shows. If I knew that the service was short lived, I would have binged even more than I did. Um, so
Yeah, it's unfortunate because those like specialty streaming services can be pretty successful. Like Mubi or Shudder are both pretty successful at sort of a smaller level than the big ones. But I guess they just wanted more stuff for HBO Max, so they put that all on HBO Max.
sure,
Well,
yeah,
not all of it, but a lot of it.
yeah, they put like the big stuff Yeah, I mean, I love DC Universe because I had the obscure stuff, like the '70s and
Yeah.
older TV shows. Um, so, you know, when the merger happened, I was like halfway through the show, so I had to wait a couple years, buy the DVD box sets, and finish it that way. So, um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Of course, being part of the '70s, like a lot of it has not aged the best. Um, of course, we've filmmaking has changed throughout the years. TV shows, no exception. So, yeah, that's how it was. Moving on to the next show, which is skipping all the way to the '90s. I haven't seen any stuff in the '80s. Oh, I never mentioned. So pretty much everything, most everything that we're covering today is from the Arrowverse. So the Arrowverse likes to just reference older stuff, like have Easter eggs. They'll have cameos with the actors. Like that's how like DC television works. Is like they always every new thing seems to like reference the thing that came before, and that is just having the older actors guest star. So Linda Carter, she guest stars in some shows. Um, Adam West, he did some cartoons, and also there was the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event, which had cameos from all these shows, essentially canonizing all of DC media, which is pretty cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So with the '90s, the Flash TV show, here we have John Wesley Shipp in this show that only lasted for one season, partially because one, it was pretty expensive to make this action superhero show, and also two, it had like the worst time slot competing against, I think, The Simpsons. So it just wasn't able to last long. But it was the first live action depiction of the Flash. And I thought it was really cool. I think to me the show does the Flash, at least story wise, better than the CW one, because the CW,
Okay.
those shows are just full of drama to like pad out the runtime, and the '90s one is not. They don't have to pad out the runtime with useless relationship drama and such. No, I think they do it really well and really clever, and so I like it. Sure, yeah, it's the '90s, so they can't always do everything right. How they depict the speedster is just they film a lot and then they essentially just fast forward for him running, so it can look goofy, but hey, I enjoy it. I think it was a fun effect for the time. I love this costume. Essentially, it's colorful. It's a muscle suit, which I think this is the best looking muscle suit out there, but whatever. I thought it was cool. And Danny Elfman did the theme for this show, which is pretty cool. So, yeah.
Ah, that's neat.
Yeah. Mark Hamill also appeared on the show as the Trickster, a kind of like Joker wannabe. So, that was fun.
Yeah, I have not seen this one, but sounds interesting from what you've described.
Yeah, I love this one. Yeah, the CW show loves to reference this show, so like almost all the main cast have cameoed or been part of the show at some point or another. So
Okay.
that's pretty cool, pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Moving on, we have the '90s Superman TV show, which is Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, which is a show that's mostly about Lois and Clark as they, uncover mysteries for like newspaper stuff. Um, Superman mostly shows up towards like the end of episodes to like save the day, which is a formula that works decently well, and you know they do a decent job overall. Dean Cain, I think, is a pretty good Clark Kent. I don't think his Superman is amazing because there's not a whole lot in between the two, but I think for the time period it's pretty fun, pretty well done. Although because it's 90s TV and it's kind of leaning towards 90s sitcom TV, they can't really portray Superman in the most comic booky way. So every villain that they do is just some D-list villain who's just like a regular gangster who comes with some certain technology that does stuff, and then it's goofy. It's pretty goofy. Like everything, almost every character is just made up for the show. They don't really get a chance to have comic book characters, except for Lex Luthor. Every now and then, in this show he's like a mixture of the business tycoon and Gene Hackman. So
Okay.
a solid mixture. Yeah, this show famously is what caused DC Comics to do the Death of Superman comic run, because originally they wanted to do the wedding of Superman and Lois, but then the DC studios are like, actually, hold up, we actually want to do that on the TV show first, so wait until that happens, and then you can do that. And so, very last minute, they got all the writers together. It's like, what do we do now? Let's just kill Superman. And so that's what they did, and it was one of their most successful comic runs. So, pretty fun times.
Yeah, that's a very iconic. Yeah.
Yeah. Drinking water if you can't hear,
Hydrated, hydrate or dihydrate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't want to dehydrate, It's not good for the environment. What else do I want to say about the show? This one I watched over the stretch of like a few years, because I started it on the DC Universe streaming service for like a season, and then I had to wait a couple years until Max finally decided to put it on there, and then I just watched it slowly but surely, like a couple episodes a week. So, I think next month they're getting a Blu-ray HD remaster, so that's pretty cool for like $100.
Yeah.
But hey, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Next up, we continue with Superman into the 2000s, which this was part of the old WB, which later became the CW. So here we have Smallville. A really long show of 10 seasons, 20-some episodes at 40 minutes. That's... Man, I didn't watch this until a few years ago. Like, after the Arrowverse. I started with the Arrowverse, but this is, like, kind of the precursor to the Arrowverse, essentially. They're filming in the same locations of Vancouver. You have 30-year-olds, playing teenagers. Pretty much every element that makes up the CW superhero shows, both the good and the bad, originates here. So, 10 seasons, you got a lot of good stuff, you have a lot of bad stuff, but the bad stuff here, I think, is better than the bad stuff in the rest of the CW stuff. So, honestly, pretty good track record for 10 seasons long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing advertisements for this show on DVDs. They'd always play that theme song, "Somebody Shave Me," and the marketing. Um, Definitely like very popular and influential of that time period. Um, what about? Do you have a history with this at all or not?
No, this is one that I would like to see at some point. It's always intrigued me that, yeah, I don't know, with that length, it is a bit intimidating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why like I always put it off for so long, because it's like, oh man, I have to like watch it for 10 seasons. That's like a lot for Ed. That's a lot. That's too much. That's 10 years. But hey, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was like fun watching the early episodes and being like, ah, yes, the early 2000s. I remember this time period, and just seeing the culture reimagined in this TV format. It was fun seeing the evolution of how it was to how it ended. Um, this is like the story of Superman, Clark Kent in high school, learning about himself and his powers, taking 10 seasons to accept his destiny of becoming Superman. And famously, he never wears the supersuit. Um, the show ends with him pulling up his shirt and having the Superman logo, but the logo was CG. He never actually wore anything for the show. You know, it's a choice.
That is funny.
Yeah.
It's like, have you seen the meme about Surf Dracula?
You keep telling me about this, yeah. You can say it again.
Yeah, how yeah, there used to be, there would be a TV show called Surf Dracula, and every episode would have a scene of Dracula surfing. Nowadays in TV, the first season would be Dracula's origin story, and then the final shot of the final episode of the first season would be there would be a surfboard.
Yeah.
And, it takes a whole other 3 seasons for him to actually get on the surfboard, and then it gets canceled before that even happens.
Yeah. 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 I think of the quote unquote CW shows. This is probably the best one overall, considering that it's 10 seasons and there's more good stuff than bad stuff in those 10 seasons. And like the bad stuff again is better than the bad stuff in the other stuff, so go ahead. It has Michael Rosenbaum as Lex Luthor, which a lot of people say is like the best live action Lex Luthor, which it's good, very good. Because they're depicting Superman in the 2000s, and that they don't quite have the technology to properly portray them, and they don't want to do the goofy thing of wearing the silly costumes. Sometimes the villain depictions just aren't, in my opinion, the strongest. They have like other superheroes that show up. They have Cyborg in this show.
Oh.
And what you'd expect Cyborg is that you expect him to be all metal on the outside. Or in the Doom Patrol show, they just put like a thing on his, like a side mask on him. This show, the way they try to get film around that is that all the cybernetics are under his skin. So you don't see any of it at all. But trust me, he's a cyborg.
Very budget friendly.
Very budget friendly. But for me, who's a comic accurate visual enthusiast, I'm like, oh man, I wanted to see the goofy costume.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's goofy or not, as long as you do it. Do it right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Yeah, that's one that I'm waiting for it to go on like deep discount on like iTunes or something because
Mm.
they'll sometimes do the like complete series sets for like a reasonable price. Right now it's $100, which is more than I'd want to pay. Well, that way I could sort of like go at it at my own pace and enjoy and trying to rely on whatever streaming service to like keep it up for as long as it takes me to get through it.
Yeah, yeah. It's been on Hulu. It's been on Hulu for like years now. So luckily, I didn't have to change services to
Okay.
watch through it. I took like a couple years break in between like 5 seasons or so. Because
Yeah, I mean it's so long that I imagine you have to kind of build in breaks if you're gonna watch it.
sure, yeah. Next up is the WB's second and other superhero show that came out around this time called Birds of Prey, which I've never seen. I think it lasted 1 or 2 seasons. Um, I don't really know a whole lot about it. I've always been curious to watch it, but it's never been on any real streaming service. I think right now you can watch it on Tubi, but I don't like dealing
Okay.
with ads. Um, I'm
The- I, some of those you can use an ad blocker, but some of them you can't.
yeah, but it's like, do I really want to go through the trouble at the moment for this right now? Not yet. I'm not ready at that point yet.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm waiting for like a DVD remaster of it, because
Okay.
the DVD copies of it right now were from the time period, so I want something a little
Yeah.
more HD. The only real thing I know about this show is the opening, the beginning shots of it, where we see like a small glimpse of like the Killing Joke where the Joker shoots Batgirl. Um, this famously, where you watch that scene, they just have a guy wear the Joker makeup, but it's like shot out of frame ish, kind of like out of focus,
Okay.
so you can't see any real details. And then they had like Mark Hamill dub over the guy's line,
Oh,
which is
that's cool.
yeah, that's cool. It's a cool like 10-second little thing. That's cool. I've never seen it in the context of the show, but it's an interesting little tidbit there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think this one follows Batman's daughter, that version of the Huntress.
Okay.
Again, I don't really know fully what this is, so it's kind of a deep cut, a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Then next up we have Arrow, which is the official start of the Arrowverse. This show started around like 2012, 2013. Began out of the success of Smallville that ended in like 2010, 2011. So, you know, Green Arrow was a character in that show. And so they're like, oh, let's have an Arrow TV show. And so they started with this. And to me, this was my start to the more modern superhero characters. And so up until this point, you know, the only live action stuff that I saw were the movies and the 60s Batman that were not afraid to portray the characters in like a cool costume and have the characters be those characters pretty much. And so that was my expectations for this show. All these shows was that they were going to build up to the comic book version of the characters. We're like, they have those costumes and they have those silly gadgets and they have those personalities. I did not know that TV was different and that they didn't do that route. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Arrow. Of the Arrowverse shows, specifically the Arrowverse shows, this one has 8 seasons, and for the most part is the best one of the Arrowverse from beginning to end. Debatably. Depends on who you ask.
Okay.
I started watching back from the first season, so I was starting early with the Arrowverse, which was fun. The experience of watching all the Arrowverse shows as they were airing weekly is, it's kind of like reading a different comic book runs. It's the closest you get to like reading comic books as they're coming out weekly. And it's like you're following these different characters, and then every once in a while you have these major crossover events, and it's like really exciting when that happens.
Yeah.
Now, the quality wise and the writing is like two different things, because here, again, 20 some episodes a season, 40 minutes each, kind of an outdated model at this point. So there's just a lot of drama to stretch out the runtime, and it's not all compelling. It's never really compelling, really. After watching this for years, I got so tired of it, of all the drama.
Yeah.
It's the type of show that is best experienced if you're like your first couple years in high school. So your standards are not quite as high. You're not noticing the flaws of like TV network. Just like, this character left the show. There's no story reason for it. It's just the actor wanted to leave, and so they had to explain why the actor's no longer there. Yeah. Arrow. The first season of Arrow, pretty good. At the time, it was like this really revolutionary action superhero show. And then like the next year or two, Daredevil came out, did the exact same thing, but 10 times better. So, kind of got overshadowed in that regard. This version of Arrow is more like a Batman.
Yeah, go for it.
It's more like a Batman than he is actual Green Arrow.
Okay.
In that he's dark and moody. A lot of his storylines are just them redoing like some Batman storylines. He has Batman villains that he's fighting against, so it's like,
Yeah.
You were saying?
Yeah, I only ever saw the first like 1 or 2 episodes of this, but I've a lot of people who I know have seen this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think out of all the official Arrowverse shows, this is the only one that I've completed.
Okay.
Because after this point, after this 8th season, that's when like COVID happened, and so that's kind of when I stopped watching some of those other shows, like the next one, the CW's The Flash, which when it first came out, it was really awesome. It's like, The Flash, it's so cool. They did the villain really well as a pretty solid first season, and then it kind of goes downhill from there. It was exciting for the first couple seasons, but then it kind of fell into like the trap of like having the right drama to pad out the time for like a full season, and none of the villains were compelling, and it was just, the Flash is so difficult to really write for, because speedsters, they can solve the situations really well, and the way they try to do it in this show is like really bad, where he will run up to the villain, stop in front of him, like tell him to stop, try to have a conversation, and then the villain gets away. Which is not the case in the 90s TV show. Most of the times, the Flash never even meets the villain until he actually captures him at the end of the episode. So that's...
But yeah, I guess that makes sense when you have to write for these power sets.
Yeah, it gets so over so quickly when every episode happens the exact same way. This is one where I only watched up until season 6. then COVID happened, and I just didn't want to bother dealing with the restrictions that I knew were going to happen with the show, which means more bad dialogue and less action. So, um,
Yeah.
I'm glad I did, because from what I've heard, the show just got even worse. It's just like new lows. So
Oh boy.
I do want to finish it for completion's sake at some point, but you know, maybe if I do like a whole Arrowverse retrospective, just go through the whole thing and be like, yep, that's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is. I've actually seen, I think, the first season of The Flash
Oh,
a long time ago. I don't remember much of it, but my mom actually watched the show pretty regularly for quite a while. Um, so I'd catch little snippets of different episodes here and there. Yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was, but I don't have any bigger thoughts on the Arrowverse because this was really the only part of it that I interacted with in any significant way.
sure. Yeah. The Arrowverse itself was something that I would watch a lot with my mom. You know, we watched it like weekly. It was like a weekly ritual. Like after school, I put up like the Arrow episode of the day. It's like I had a schedule for how I watch things. It's like this day we're watching Arrow, this day we're watching Flash, or this other day whatever other show that came out. There was a point where there was just
Yeah.
too many Arrowverse shows to keep up with that I just wasn't watching weekly. So,
Yeah.
but this show was exciting because it opened up the opportunity for like crossover events, more comic book powered supervillains. You know, it was pretty fun at the time.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's just memed for just how bad it got. So, you know,
As is going to happen, I guess.
yeah. Next up, we have Constantine, which originally was not part of the Arrowverse. It was a show that started on NBC, but then NBC decided to give them the very worst time slot possible, where nobody was awake to watch the show. So, only lasted one season. And then the Arrowverse was like, "Hey, let's buy the rights to this character and bring him over," and gave him a chance there, which is really good. I think this actor is the perfect actor to portray this character. He did such a good job, to the point where when the DC animated films were like doing the character, they were like, "Hey, you're really good at this. Come voice the character," and so he did that there. Matt Ryan is the name of the actor. This was a horror show. It's one of the only horror shows I've seen. I didn't watch it when it first came out because it was a horror show, but when I heard that he was going to appear in the Arrow show, I was like, I gotta watch it, and so I did, and I really liked it. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is one that I have always been curious to see just because of those horror elements that. And yeah, Constantine is an interesting character. Maybe not one of my favorites, but just the world he inhabits is very unique for a superhero.
Hmm. I just think like his personality, especially portrayed by Matt Ryan, was just so fun and interesting to watch. Um, Again, like because it's like network television, they can't always go all hardcore in how they depict the magic stuff. But I thought they did a pretty good job with the budget that they had. So
Okay.
yeah, he would later get like another life with Legends of Tomorrow and some Arrow crossover events. So good on him.
Yeah.
Next up we have Vixen, which started out as like a handful of like 5-minute episodes, and then they kind of combined all those little things into like a quote unquote movie. Um, have you seen this?
I have not, no.
Yeah, it's not amazing. Uh, like the story is all over the place because it was not made to be a movie, so it's like it's all over the place. Plus, this takes place over multiple seasons of the Arrowverse, so like the timing of like events is just so off. Um, but hey, if you want to see like a sort of animated version of some of those characters, hey, there's Vixen, who I thought it was pretty cool at the time. But
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Next up, we have Supergirl, which started out on CBS for its first season or two, and then eventually joined the CW after they switched over the rights. I only watched the first season and the first couple episodes of season 2 because that's when they introduced Superman. And then, like, I had intended to watch more, but I just kept. There's just too much stuff to watch that I just never bothered to just finish after that. But yeah, Supergirl.
Yeah.
She was a fine show that was more of like a Superman ripoff than really Supergirl. But anyway, I don't really know what else to say because I haven't finished the show.
Yeah. And I haven't seen any of this one, so I don't have anything to add.
Sure. Yeah. Then we have DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which was this very interesting thing that the CW did, where, you know, they had all of these side characters that showed up in these shows, and you're like, hey, why don't we just make a whole other TV show filled with these side characters and have them go on, like, time travel stuff? And so that's how this show came along. And I liked it for the first few seasons, and then the show just decided to go weird and just stopped caring to be like serious or make sense, and so it kind of lost me at that point. Um, but it has a lot of the side characters that I enjoy seeing, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a big fan of this show. So this is, of the Arrowverse shows, this is one of the more interesting ones to me. With sort of the premise of that, like the bigger team cast, it seems to be digging a bit deeper into like weirder comic book characters, which always is interesting to me.
Sure. Yeah. It still has like the writing issues that these shows have that I don't particularly love, but it has a lot of fun characters. Like, I got so tired of this show because these characters should not have control over a time machine, and you know, the way they try to solve things, it was like always in the worst possible way, which, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the show is also like changing its style because at first it started out as like a very serious show where it's like, we gotta stop this bad guy from doing this bad thing with time travel, and then as the show went on, it just kept delving further and further in the comedy. And you know me, comedy is not my favorite thing, so I never saw the last final seasons because I just was over it by that point.
Again, I haven't seen any of this one, so I can't really contribute much here.
Next up, we have Lucifer, a show I have not seen, so I don't really know anything about it, but the actor showed up for like 10 seconds in the Crisis crossover, so he's here.
Yeah, pretty iconic comic book, I believe. Has a lot of crossovers with different things.
Yeah. All I know,
It's sort of like an off to the side project.
Yeah. All I know is it started out with like one studio, and then Netflix saved it from cancellation for like a couple more seasons or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just never really was interested in any of it, so it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know. Next up, we have Freedom Fighters The Ray. This is like Vixen, which started out as a handful of like shorts that was later made into a film. Starring a character that showed up in one of the crossover events. This was telling the origin story, but like none of it really fit anything that was established in the show. So just it was weird timeline wise and character wise. It didn't really match. Um, Also had really stiff animation, and it wasn't really my type of story. But you've actually seen this one though.
I have,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't remember much about it. I like the actor, Russell Tovey, and this seemed easier to watch just this than to try and figure out what episode the crossover event was and what I needed to see to understand that. Um, yeah, it's fine. I don't, again, I don't remember a whole lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what else to add.
It's not the most memorable thing out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing else to add. Uh, Next up we had Black Lightning, which when it first aired on the CW, it was not originally part of the Arrowverse. CW decided to do like a separate thing with this one, which for its first season, it was very much praised for better writing than your average CW show. Um, I watched it after the first season fully came out, and I thought it was pretty good. Then I just didn't catch up weekly with the other seasons, and I heard it really fell off after that point. So it's a shame. Uh, but for that first season, I thought it was pretty decent.
Yeah, I've only heard of this one, so I don't have any familiarity with it beyond that.
Sure. Yeah. Uh, then we start moving on to the DC Universe streaming shows, so the shows that were made for the DC Universe service. And the first one was Titans, which when it was announced, I was like, ah, cool. And then they showed like set photos, and it was like, ah, it doesn't quite look great. And then that first trailer came out, and oh boy, we got a sense of what the tone was, and I don't think a lot of people liked it for that. You remember that time, don't you?
Yeah, I thought the trailer was fun. I got a lot of joy out of the overreaction people had to it.
Sure.
Enough that I actually did watch the first episode of this. Um, didn't care enough to continue watching it, though I have there. There's a later season arc with one of the characters that I've seen clips of on YouTube. Since Tim Drake is my favorite Robin, there's not a ton of Tim Drake stuff in other media outside of comics. So I was like, oh, I'll just watch his arc from one of the later seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never felt inspired to go back and watch the rest of this.
Yeah. There's 4 seasons. I've only seen the 3. Like, I keep meaning to finish it, but, like, I don't enjoy the show, so it's always a struggle to get into it. Um, like, they try. They do sometimes try, and, like, they dangle, like, some interesting things, and I'm like, ah, that's cool, I like that. But then they don't do it justice, and it's just like, ah, it's really underwhelming and not great. That's kind of the show in general, is that sometimes they do things that seem right. Some of the costumes look great, they choose the right actors, it starts off really well, but then they just don't know how to finish it off really well, and so it's just leads to some laughable things that happen. It's also really edgy as well. Like overly edgy that first season was just not not great. Um yeah, it's a show.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, it's also like none of them ever do anything worthy of being superheroes. Most of the show is just them arguing about their personal lives and not actually going out stopping crime. The only time they stop crime is like at the beginning of the season for like a minute, and at the end of the season when they finally like realize, oh hey, there's a bad guy we need to stop, and then they do it. So everything
Yeah.
between, I'm like, come on, you're a superhero team, do superhero stuff, and then they don't. Which is a
Yeah,
similar.
I guess with the limited TV budget, yeah, that's
I mean, they had a higher budget than some other stuff. Like the stuff that they were doing looked better than other stuff, but no, whatever. The similar opinion I have with this next show, Doom Patrol, but I think Doom Patrol is more enjoyable than Titans. Um, you want to talk about it for a minute?
sure I can talk about it for a minute. I haven't finished the show. I'm still working on season 3, and then there's a season 4 that I haven't seen. But yeah, this is one that really worked for me. It is a sort of odd premise. It's a group of sort of superpowered people, but it isn't really about. I mean, they do some superhero stuff, but it is more based on the character drama, and these are all characters who have experienced some trauma and who are working through it. And yeah, that's what I find interesting about it. This is a very odd show. It isn't afraid to go into weird territory, into more controversial ideas, but it always approaches things in a very mature and smart way. I've found that it is, especially the second season took me a while to get through, just because each episode was so full of like very satisfying and like a full meal. Um, just the emotional arcs that they were doing felt very well constructed in a way that made it very difficult to binge because um yeah, I have enjoyed it thus far. I will eventually finish it. I have both of the seasons that I'm working my way through. I have on Blu-ray and DVD, so that is something that is on my mind as like, oh yeah, I need to actually sit down and watch these. But again, like I can only ever do one episode at a time because it is something that I really enjoy, and each episode is so satisfying as like a full, complete experience that I find it a bit difficult to binge.
Sure. This one, like Titans, I've only seen the first 3 seasons, and the fourth season. I don't know. I just haven't really bothered to finish it. Uh, like Titans, I started with these characters in some cartoons because they appeared in some cartoons. I know that they also had like a series of like 2 minute animated shorts in the 2010s that depict them as superheroes. Like all the animated stuff that I saw them before were like them as a superhero team. And for this show, I kept waiting for them to do that, but they never did. And it's not to say that the character stuff was not compelling. It was. I just was like, I've had enough of the character stuff. I just want them to be the superhero team that we never got. I enjoyed the first season the most, and then afterwards, it just didn't compel me as much. So, yeah.
I like the second season, and I'm working on the third season, so I don't have a full constructed opinion on that yet.
Sure. Yeah. Next up is another one of the DC Universe streaming shows, Swamp Thing, which infamously they canceled the show before the first episode even aired, which was just a real shame. This is a horror show, where they have like a lot of really good practical monster effects in it. I'm sure was probably really expensive to make, and it was like really well done, and they canceled it after one season before the first episode even aired. It was like, such a shame. They got it right again. It was cool to see Swamp Thing again and like look really good and be very interesting, setting up an interesting plot, and then the show got canceled. It was like, what?
Yeah, this is one I've always been curious to watch because I know that James Wan was involved with it to some capacity. He's a filmmaker who I very much enjoy the stuff he makes. And yeah, that horror aesthetic, which isn't super common in super. Yeah, this is one that I've just never gotten around to. Again, I'm waiting for the price on iTunes to drop to a low enough level that I'm like, okay, I'll pick it up now.
Yeah. I recently bought the Blu-ray to watch at some point, so
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe I should invest in the Blu-ray.
Yeah. Yeah. Next up, we return to the CW with Batwoman, and this was a show that originally I was really excited for. She was introduced in one of the crossover events, and I thought it was really cool to finally get like Batman character stuff that was really well done. And they announced that she was gonna get her own spin-off show. I was really excited. Then the first teaser trailer came, and boy, they put in all the worst scenes in that trailer.
Oh boy.
Yeah, very, very controversial. The show came out. I watched like the first episode. It was bad. It wasn't very good. And then I just never bothered to continue watching. I've seen highlights of the rest of the season. Most of the highlights were just the worst bits, of course, so I don't have a proper grasp. But from what I hear, it's not a great show. The highest praise people can give it is mid. So, I never bothered catching up with it, so yeah. Plus, behind the scenes, there was just so much controversy with the writers and the lead performer being replaced after a season, so you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I never paid much attention to this one.
Yeah. Next up, we have Stargirl, which was the final show from the DC Universe streaming service. The first season was part of that service, and then after that service shut down, the show got picked up by the CW, and so the next couple seasons were from the CW. And you could really feel the budget when it got picked up by the CW, because suddenly the writing wasn't quite there. The way they did things just wasn't quite there, even though they tried their best. Also, COVID, so, filming restrictions, which ultimately skewed the final product. I thought the first season was okay. I had like a couple issues with how things were handled, but I think they pulled off Stargirl pretty well as a character. But it is a show for like a younger teenage audience, so sometimes the decisions of the characters are like so stupid. But anyway.
Yeah, I haven't ever seen this one.
Well, moving on, we have the very, well, quote-unquote, the last of the CW superhero shows, which is Superman and Lois, which was kind of borrowing the same actors from the Arrowverse, but technically not part of the Arrowverse. It's like Arrowverse adjacent. But yeah, here we have Superman and Lois, where Superman is a father living in Smallville, raising his two sons. A lot of people praise it for just being a solid superhero show, which Superman does really well on television for some reason. This was like the beginnings of the switch of the dark and brooding Superman to the more happy, hopeful, and lighthearted Superman, We started with this, then we got the My Adventures for Superman animated show, and then now we have the James Gunn one. So, a solid progression overall. 4 seasons. I had heard nothing except its praises, and then when I watched it, I was a little overwhelmed because I was expecting something a little more premium, but it's just like better versions of the CW quality essentially. But it's still a solid show for 4 seasons. So yeah.
Yeah, I saw part of the first season and enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to some other shows that aired that were not part of the Arrowverse. First up, we have Gotham, which lasted 5 seasons. This was a show that was on the Fox network about Gotham, the early days of Gotham, where Bruce Wayne is just a kid, and it's about James Gordon solving crimes. At least that's how it started. And then each new season, they kind of added different storylines and different characters. It does the villains really well. Like the Penguin here, the Riddler, they're all great. And then we also have Cameron Monaghan as Jerome, which is probably the standout role of this, is his role as Jerome, which is great. Great to the fact that they had like legal issues sometimes, because it's like, hey, we see what you're doing. You're not allowed to do that character, and so they had to like make creative ways to do the character in their own way. So yeah, I thought that Gotham was very entertaining from beginning to end. I never felt that it was brought down by the same type of drama that CW was. Like, even if there was drama, it was entertaining drama. And it had like a decent quality throughout, so yeah.
Yeah, this is one I saw a handful of episodes, but stopped watching it after a little bit just because, I mean, it's so long.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Pretty fun time. Next up, we have Krypton from Sci-Fi. I guess they saw Gotham and it was like, hey, that's pretty cool. Let's make our own show. Krypton. Lasted a couple seasons. I never saw it. So I don't have anything to comment on.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Yeah. Next up, we have HBO's Watchmen miniseries, which you.
I have seen this one, yeah. Yeah, this is a sequel to the comic, and they are very intentional about that. There's certain things that pop up very early on that are just very clear indication that this is not at all interested in dealing with the Zack Snyder movie, with the comic itself. Interpretation of these characters in sort of a continuation of this story in a very odd but very interesting way. It feels prescient in certain ways. There's some things that get brought up, that some very topical issues that it has some very interesting perspectives on. Every once in a while I'll read a news headline and be like, oh, this is reminded me a bit of the Watchmen TV show, most recently, stuff about police officers wearing masks, which is like part of the premise of this show, is that police officers have started to wear masks and there's controversy around accountability for them. Yeah, this is just a really fascinating show. I'm not entirely sure if it quite sticks the landing for me. The final beat it ends on is really, really good, but the last couple episodes didn't quite hit as well for me. It kind of has that same superhero show thing where it has to build towards a big epic climax conclusion thing, that yeah, I wasn't super into that specific thing. But I mean, it's just so well made, and there's so much interesting stuff going on here. It actually understands what the graphic novel is about, as opposed to I don't know that I could say the Zack Snyder movie really understands that. Um, so yeah, this is definitely one that I have suggested it to people before. Just if you are familiar with Watchmen, or even not, like there's a lot here to be enjoyed. Just as like this very relevant, very timely show that is also just very, very well made.
Yeah, I saw it when it came out. I don't really remember fully much about it or what my overall thoughts were. I think I remember it was like well done. There was just like a couple plot elements that seemed to be forgotten by the end of the show, but besides that, it's an interesting sequel of sorts. Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot
and
of
it
good.
is as a mini series, it is a whole lot more accessible than some of these, 100, 200 episode shows out there that are
Yeah,
yeah, this is I think 8 episodes, and yeah, it
yeah,
moves very well. There's a lot of fun stuff going on, a lot of great performances.
yeah, yeah.
Jeremy Irons, I think, stood out especially to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. That's pretty fun.
Playing a
Well,
very fun role.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's where we'll leave it. Don't want to spoil anything if you want to watch it. Um, but moving on, we have an odd one. We have Pennyworth. Um, started out as Pennyworth originally, and
That's not the full title.
then they had a title change to, the full title.
Yes, I know the full title. Pennyworth, The Origin of Batman's Butler. Not Bruce Wayne's butler, Batman's butler. Don't trust the audience to know who Bruce Wayne is. Actually, I'm sure it's more for search engine optimization, but still kind of funny.
Yeah,
Very funny.
it's an odd show. It's an odd show. I watched it like a couple years ago. I don't even know what to describe it as. Um, we don't ever see him become the butler. Um, he,
Sir Dracula. I'm
yeah,
telling you.
yeah, but I think like the actor portraying Alfred is like fantastic. I think he's the perfect actor for the role. Um, boy, do they go in very bizarre directions, especially after that first season. So I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. Um, watch it if you want to. Next up, we have something that's part of the DCEU, and that's Peacemaker, James Gunn's first TV show here.
Yeah, this is one that. So I watched the Suicide Squad, the James Gunn movie, and I knew that this Peacemaker show was coming out, and I was kind of dreading it for one specific reason, which is that the way the character is portrayed in the Suicide Squad, he is not a particularly likable, well, not even not particularly likable. He is a very hateable character, very intentionally so. And I knew that this show was going to not only try to redeem him, but successfully like redeem him and make him a more complicated character. And I was like, oh, I hate this character so much right now that I don't think I could watch this. But yeah, when I eventually watched it, it is so well done and so well made, and is taking this complicated character and making you understand him in a way that, yeah, just it works so well. It's also hilarious. It's also fun. There's like this superhero team, or not superhero team, more like espionage team that gets assembled here, and you come to care about all of the different members. And yeah, I just think this is excellent. Maybe my favorite of the shows. Oh, Doom Patrol is also up there. Those two are maybe my favorite shows of the ones that we have talked about today.
Yeah. This show wasn't really for me. I've talked about some of like my issues with some James Gunn comedy and direction, so that was apparent here. Um, I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. It's a show.
If nothing else, this has like one of the best opening themes
I don't
ever.
I don't
It's
care
so
about the
much fun.
opening. I'm not a proponent of fun.
What? What?
Yeah,
Yeah, if you don't like fun, this show might not be for you.
yeah. I like fun. I just don't like the fun that's been happening here. I don't know. It's just didn't do it for me. Uh, and
I
then
like the fun of this show.
sure. The last show that we'll have here today is The Penguin, which is the miniseries made out of the Batman film, starring Colin Farrell as the Batman. So, why we wait an eternity
Colin Farrell
for
as the Batman?
yeah, as the Penguin. While we wait an eternity for that sequel to come out, we have this little miniseries which shows the Penguin, where we last left him, try to rise to power in the ranks of crime. A really well made miniseries. Penguin, really well performance, but does get slightly outperformed by a character of the show, Sophia Falcone, which is, if you haven't seen it, I would recommend it. It's just more of that universe, which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one. I'm kind of I don't know. This is one of those shows that everyone talks about so
Yeah.
much as, oh, this is so good, you have to watch it now, and that
Yeah.
I just kind of get exhausted by everyone talking about it. Way that makes me want to see the show less and less the more I hear people talk about it.
Yeah.
But I'll probably eventually watch it.
Yeah. This is one that I waited months until after like the hype quieted down to watch it. I do think it's like really well made. Do I think it's like one of the 10 best shows ever? No. I think that's probably just recency bias. But it is generally well made. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much all we have today for TV shows. Next time we'll be
I was
covering.
wondering,
Did I?
did you consider including the Netflix Sandman show in here?
Mm, no, I don't have it in
Or
one of
since
my.
that's not like quite
It's it's not
DC
it's not quite.
adjacent,
It's DC adjacent, especially like the version of that show is DC adjacent. Um, it wasn't part of my video, so I don't have a slide for it. But if you want to quickly mention that, then
okay. Oh yeah, I don't have much to say. I mean, the comic is very DC. Like DC characters are showing up very prominently in it. Like talk about one. Actually, I think Wonder Woman might show up eventually, but John Constantine is in it, which is why I was wondering if you were aware of it. But
yeah,
yeah,
mm-hmm.
the show is kind of like minimizing those connections. I assume for rights reasons.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a very good adaptation. I haven't read the entire series, but I have read, I think, the first two volumes in full, and then some of the later volumes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember it being a very, very good adaptation. I just brought it up since I know the new season is out now or out soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I know a few actors that I like that are in it, but that's about it. So, and yeah, that will do it for today. That's all she wrote. That's all I have here for TV shows. If I were to pick my favorite TV show out of this list here, it'd probably be within the lines of Constantine, Arrow, Smallville, and The Flash, and also the '60s Batman. Out of all of those, I'd say '60s Batman, if I'm being honest. Yeah. So
Of the handful I've seen, have to say Doom Patrol or Peacemaker or Sandman, even though that wasn't technically on the list.
sure, yeah. But yeah, that's all we have today. The next stream will cover everything else that's not mentioned, which most of the stuff that's not mentioned, I don't think either of us have really seen. So it's gonna be like a speed run of sorts. So yeah, join us next time. I think that's on Wednesday. So yeah, bye. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
See you next time. Bye bye. Bye bye. Thanks for joining, Jay.
Long farewell.
So long, and thanks for all the fish.